Hey everyone, Lucas Schwegendiek here, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about investing more into the moment. And not so much in terms of the meditative practice or in terms of letting go of other things, but more in the area of getting more joy out of life. So I'm going to be taking a look at the masters of doing this, at the true, unequivocal, just superior masters, children. Because as kids, and you know this yourself, you invest into everything fully. There's no holding back. This is somewhere around the preschool age, probably for most of you. So somewhere between being able to walk and going into school into first grade. So maybe like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, where you're just totally, utterly joyful, where there's nothing holding you back. You're too young to really be taught anything. Your parents tried, but it didn't really stick. And you're too explorative to really have that maturity level to restrain yourself. So you just go out and try everything. That's why your parents had to child proof their home against you, because you would touch everything. You would try to grab hold of everything. You tried to see what everything was about. You gave fully into every experience. And we had a lot of fun back then because of this explorative nature that we had. And that comes from investing into the moment. You will see this only nowadays with people that essentially are their job, that fully give to a certain characteristic or that define as one particular thing, and that just embody that more than anything else. They fully invest into it. In their free time, they spend time with this in a certain area. In their professional life, they do a certain area, and this has become their life. And that's when they really invest into it, when they really give it their all. Sometimes you'll see this also with people that go on vacation or that give themselves the liberty to truly invest into something. Maybe if they're going to an amusement park or to the pool sometimes. A few times you'll see this with parents that are very, very relaxed and just totally commit to the moment or their parenthood and enjoy that. Usually it's very, very tightly correlated to joy, however. And what this looks like is you either not caring at all about any possible consequences. Usually that's the child approach, because as children we have no concept of consequences. We just go and do things. We have to learn consequences first, like falling down or making our parents angry. And so we do whatever we want to do. We scream in the restaurant, we run around in the store, we fall on our face and cry our hearts out as loud as we can. There's no restrictions there whatsoever. So either you don't care about the consequences, or you just fully, fully commit to the moment, which we're also really good at as children, because there's not that much going on inside our heads. There's no other moments, no responsibilities, nothing to really think about. So the moment is all that exists for us, essentially. And that comes from either letting go of other thoughts, so now we are getting a little bit meditative, or fully committing to what you're doing, which usually works better for people living in Western civilizations, just because of certain aspects, that we can give ourselves more to the moment. So I want to try to maybe explain this a little bit more. You'll have to bear with me because this is a bit of a finicky subject. What this means, if I'm presenting here in front of a video, or if you're hearing this on a podcast for a podcast, that I fully give myself to this experience. That I just say, yeah, I'm going to give everything I've got here. Usually we try to hold back because of certain fears. We try not to act a certain way. We maybe try to look professional or try to do something. We're not crazy and doing stupid things. We're not laughing. We're always restricting ourselves in some way, either because of certain expectations we have of ourselves or the people that we share this with or something else. When we're truly ourselves, though, when we're fully committed to this experience, usually we find ourselves a lot lighter, a lot less choked up, and we just don't care about what happens, like children do. And that's a really, really good way to go through life, in most cases. Obviously, in some cases, like your job, you may want to take a little bit of a responsibility, otherwise you'll get fired. You won't have any money. So as adults, we have to have a certain level of restraint, or at least know when to restrain certain things. Right? I'm not going to go and strip naked now, even if I wanted to. I don't. But even if I wanted to do that, I'm going to probably keep the restraint up, because otherwise you will never see this video. And likely no other ones after this. Of course, for the people in the podcast, I could be sitting here naked right now. You wouldn't know the difference. And if I did that, if I wanted to, I should maybe go about doing that. But the core of it is allowing yourself to explore these things at least a little bit. You're mature enough, you know enough to know what are maybe good things and what are not so good things, but some things you can absolutely do. Now, I can be weird here in front of the camera because I know I'm giving myself the liberty to do it. I can put on weird hats, and I'm going to do this right now with a hat I have around here. And, right, this is an anime hat, and I can be a completely serious life coach even wearing this. For the people listening to the podcast, they won't see my fly hat. The core of it is that you can have as much fun as you want to if you give yourself a little bit of courage to do that. And if you allow yourself to be a little kid and just be weird and try to make things more enjoyable. So I hope this, for the people that are watching this, gave a little bit of a smile. It is a little bit embarrassing. You might see my cheeks turning red here a little bit, which means I'm not 100% comfortable with this yet. I also have to learn. But the core of it is that you want to try to get rid of that consequence thinking. If I was a person that would, really, really care about my viewership and the serious level, I would never have worn that hat. Probably not a very productive thing to do. But if you stop caring about the results a little bit, it becomes a lot easier to do that. So another way to think about this is to just be brave enough to deal with whatever consequences may come your way. Essentially being brave enough to be yourself. Being brave enough to just go for what you want, to be in the moment, and to be like a child again, to have fun again, to be weird, be kooky, be whoever you want to be. And that takes courage as adults, because we're so afraid of the things people think about us, because we're so afraid of the possible consequences, because we want to protect what we have so much. And there's if you're into chakra meditations at all, the 7th chakra, the crown chakra, opening that up usually means letting go of that, which doesn't mean you're going to lose it. And it's a very important point to make. Just because you're being weird or being strange or being yourself does not mean that you will lose the friends that you have or whatever it is you're afraid of losing. It just means you're allowing the possibility of losing that, because you want to act out yourself more. You want to be more yourself. You want to scream, you want to laugh, you want to cry, you want to just give yourself fully to whatever moment is going on and enjoy that as much as you can. The other bit of a disclaimer here is that you may not want to do certain things, and that's okay. You don't have to fully invest into it. So if you're crying and you don't feel like crying your eyes out and really going into a horrible cry, like become one of those really ugly criers, then don't do it. You don't have to force anything. In fact, this whole tip I'm trying to share with you today is about not forcing things, and it's about not trying to be something. So if you don't want to wear a weird hat on a video, don't do it. If you don't want to strip naked, then there's no point to it. But this comes in line a little bit with the acceptance topic I talked about yesterday, and as well with the topic of just committing to yourself, I suppose. Some more of it. So trying to bring this back around to children, trying to look at what kids do, how kids play it out. They just act. They don't second guess. They don't think twice about something. They just are. It's weird. It's very hard to explain, but as weird as that may sound, they're just who they are. They will climb on trees because they want to do it. They will scream in the store if they want to. They will even, grab whatever food out of the shelf if they want to. And that's all they think about. Their thoughts don't go that far. They're not that mature enough to do that yet. And I'm not saying do this all the time, but do this more often. Now, it might be fun to go a little crazy and climb a tree again. When's the last time you've done that? Or to play tag with your friends, or hide and seek, or something like that. It can be a lot of fun to just allow that inner child to come out a bit more and to live like that more often. The more you can do that in situations where it's not that socially accepted, the more you'll grow into that again. So if you're doing this in a business meeting and you're just having a great time, you'll likely find that people are a little bit tentative about it. It can definitely backfire. But if you're fully committed to it, if you're not ashamed of doing that, it becomes very, very, endearing. And usually people will gravitate towards it because you bring a sense of joy with you. But you have to own that. So that's something we talked about in the video. I talked about in the video yesterday. But you want to really own who you are and commit to whatever's going on in your head. And just be brave enough to push that a little bit. If you can push it a lot, go for it. If you can't, just push outside your comfort zone just a tiny bit and see where you fall off. And then keep pushing that. So what does this mean? A lot of theory now. I always want to try to get a little bit practical, but I sometimes lose my train of thought as well. So what this means is that you're not trying to be perfect, that you get rid of that idea of perfectionism and you just act. So if you're, let's see what's a good example of this. Let's say you're, for instance, this is a thing that Kyle Cease talks about. If you don't know who that is, I encourage you to look him up on YouTube. He has an amazing book as well called I Hope I Screw This Up, which kind of embodies this whole thing we're talking about here today a lot. So what he talks about is he gives the example of standing in an elevator next to a very attractive person. And when you then try to think of something to say, most people will sit there and think and think and think and think and won't be able to come up with anything. And by the time they may have halfway come up with something, the person has already exited the elevator and you missed your chance. That happens because we try too hard and we don't commit to whatever is going on. If we just committed to the moment and committed to that nervousness and committed to what's going on inside of us, we would be more accepting of it. And we would maybe just look at that person and say, hey, you're very attractive. I have no clue what to say to you. I would really like to talk to you and get to know you more. I'm trying to come up with a question. Maybe you can help me out. Otherwise, I'll be a bit awkward here for a while and we'll see what I can come up with. And while that may not always work that way, I'm maybe not that good at doing that. But that honesty usually is already enough to put a very unique spin on it. And some of these things are more natural than others, but most of it comes through just committing to it and owning it and allowing yourself to be like a child that would just, do that. When you see children engaging with adults they don't know, unless they're really shy children, but once they do, they will talk to an adult they've never met before about dinosaurs or airplanes or whatever for hours. So much so that the parents get embarrassed and try to hold back the child. But the child is just passionate. That's what I want to talk about. That's what I like. So they go all in. Always. And that's the kind of child, if you become more like that, it's going to do you a lot of good. I think you're going to be a lot more joyful and just have more fun in the world. So definitely something to look into and definitely something to maybe think back upon. How were you acting when you were a child? What was the difference there? You didn't care so much. You didn't try so hard. Maybe adopt a little bit of that childlike energy again by doing something like playing tag with your friends or being a little bit more courageous to just show who you are to other people, even if that means wearing a weird hat. I hope this gave you something. And yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.